Good morning, Beaumont. Well, by now, you're probably talking to yourself and asking the same question that I've been asking, and that is, since we know that Joe Biden was not consciously capable of making any decisions for at least the last full year, maybe 2 years, who was running the auto pen? Well, according to Douglas Golden over at Western Journal, he said, I think we're on safe ground that we know Joe Biden was not doing any of this. This is beyond dispute. He said, we had the audio from Biden's interview with special counsel Robert Hur, and if you haven't listened to it, of course, it's devastating because it depicts a man who is much farther gone mentally than the transcripts of the interview did, and the transcripts were really bad. Well, on Tuesday of this week, a more thorough look into Biden's mental deterioration, original sin, President Biden's decline, his cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again by Jake the Tapeworm, with assistance from Axios' Alex Thompson. That book was released, confirming that even before his decision to run in 2020, serious questions about his mental capability existed. So, what about everything that was signed with the auto pen? I mean, it's obvious to me that everything signed with the auto pen should be thrown out, and we need to find out who actually did those things. Tennessee GOP Rep Tim Burchett would certainly like some answers, particularly on his health issues. And for those of you that don't recall, on Biden's list of pardons and grants of clemency seemed extraordinarily broad. In addition to pardoning his own son, Hunter Biden, whom he said he would absolutely never pardon after his convictions on felony charges, the president went on the largest single-day grant of clemency in modern history, granting clemency to people that, well, most of us have never even heard of. He preemptively pardoned Biden-area figures like former GOP Rep Liz Cheney from Wyoming, who was, of course, soundly defeated 75-25 when she ran for election again. And, of course, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Yeah, Dr. Fauci, of course, as you know, committed treason against the United States, deliberately helped to design and create a disease that would kill literally millions of people, and then oversaw its rollout. Among those receiving pardons or clemency, including a Pennsylvania judge who sold minor children for profit prisons, and part of the bribery scheme, and multiple murderers that were also, and that was what blew my mind. I mean, some of these were heinous murderers. How do these guys get out? Well, appearing on the podcast of Turning Point USA with Benny Thompson and talking about the auto pen, particularly in the light of the now stage 4 prostate cancer diagnosis, sounds a little dodgy. Burchett said he feared, given the events, that we'd find staffers had stashed up to $250,000 in some safety deposit boxes in exchange for doing auto pen pardons. In other words, they would basically get through with little or no oversight. I mean, particularly if Cammie won, nobody would even know about this stuff. The matter will probably be decided in the courts. Of course, we know most of the courts are corrupt, but I'm sure that we'll write somebody a strong letter, Burchett said, when it came to discussing the constitutionality of someone using Biden's auto pen. Burchett then went on to note, when it came to selling pardons, Tennessee has a history of this. We had a governor, and he sold pardons. You can look it up. His name was Ray Blanton. Made national news. Indeed, it did. Blanton's staff reportedly took hundreds of thousands of dollars for commutations and pardons after he took office back in 1975, including one convicted murderer who was given 20 to 40 years but was out on work release. One Nashville TV anchor who broke the story recalled interviewing him about it, saying, I'd say to Blanton, he's a convicted double murderer. And he said, well, he hasn't killed anybody since he got out of prison. Lovely. Blanton did not run for re-election in 1978, and he was convicted in 1984 of mail fraud and extortion on unrelated matters. Well, he was just a crook. He served 22 months in prison and died in 1996. The difference between Blanton and Biden, of course, is that Blanton was in his right mind, just a criminal one, whereas Biden's mind has effectively been gone for some period of time, perhaps years. However, the cash for clemency regime of Blanton is, according to Burchett, exactly what you're going to find out with the auto pen pardon clemency spree that Biden went on in his final days in office. You're going to find staffers who were able to take forms, get them, run them through some sort of bogus legal system, and then they auto-penned them. And there's people out on the street that shouldn't be. But somebody got rich from all that, and I think those people, hate to say it, which probably something horrible is going to happen to some of the people because this goes up the chain. This is a very dangerous town to play this game in. Asked to elaborate further, Burchett noted, I have no direct proof of that. I'm just talking about history. You got somebody making $100,000 a year and somebody offers you $250,000 in some safety deposit box? Yeah. Burchett shook his head in dismay, as indeed we all would at the prospect. Now, again, as the kids like to say, big if true. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and while very unusual coincidences can be pointed out, as Burchett is doing here, they're just doing that until extraordinary evidence emerges. Very unusual coincidences. They said we have an extraordinary and overwhelming pile of evidence that a massive subterfuge was necessary by a core group of individuals to convince the American people of something that wasn't true. They tried to convince us that we had a functional president during Biden's term of office because the very idea of putting Kamala Harris in charge, well, that scared the hell out of them too. We also know that Biden was essentially completely non-functional toward the end. Yet what was going on even in his own White House was advertised as the biggest clemency spree in the history of our republic. If Steve Ricchetti had taken down the Stars and Stripes and hoisted a giant crimson standard at his stead in the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue area, there couldn't be a bigger red flag coming from the White House regarding these auto pen pardons and clemencies. Knowing what we know, it's impossible to look into everything that happened in the 4 years of the Biden presidency, but the possibility that the former president's numerous infirmities combined with the authority of the auto pen turned the White House into Ray Blanton 2.0 in the administration's final days. This can't be ignored. Attention must be paid, and not just by Representative Burchett. All I can say is I hope that somehow, somewhere, justice is going to be done, but we all know that what happened there was very wrong, and we now know that somebody got paid a lot of money, perhaps several somebodies got paid a lot of money to run that auto pen. This has to be brought to justice. You know, we need people to remember us and think good things about us every day. We need to give gifts to friends, loved ones, and customers, and that's why you need to go see my friends Brian and Christina at crazinesscreations.com. There you will find amazing custom t-shirts, coffee mugs, and incidentals that are going to make their day. You can find a t-shirt for your honey from the great Stylized Owl collection, or something for your friend or client or customer to cement your relationship for years to come. Don't forget, you have to get reelected to be grandma, grandpa, aunt, or uncle of the year, and that requires gifts. So crazinesscreations.com gives you an inexpensive way to engender warm and loving feelings for a lifetime. crazinesscreations.com, crazinesscreations.com, crazinesscreations.com. Go there today. Get those goodies for your friends, loved ones, and clients. You won't regret it, and they're going to remember you. Meanwhile, we have to talk for just a minute about Democrat Rep. LaMonica McIver. Seems that she's got bigger problems than her butt. Namely, will she be able to keep her seat? McIver, as you might have heard, is facing charges of assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement after she was caught on video assaulting ICE agents during a political stunt earlier this month. Now, in addition to those charges, South Carolina GOP Rep. Nancy Mace says she wants McIver to be expelled from the House of Representatives. No one is above the law, they say, and assault is a crime. The American people deserve better, Mace said in an ex-post announcing the expulsion. So, on May 9th, 2025, Representative LaMonica McIver arrived at Delaney Hall Federal Immigration Facility in Essex County, New Jersey. This is a federal immigration detention facility operated by the United States ICE That would be Immigration Customs Enforcement. And she entered the secure area of the federal facility without authorization. And then she attempted to prevent law enforcement officials from making a lawful arrest of another individual who also entered a secure area of the Delaney Hall Federal ICE facility. She slammed her forearm into the body of a uniformed security ICE special agent and attempted to restrain the agent by forcibly grabbing her. Representative LaMonica McIver must be held accountable for the highest standards of conduct in order to safeguard the public's faith in this institution. She is, after all, a state rep. Given her egregious violations, Representative LaMonica McIver is not fit to serve as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. Therefore, be it resolved, according to Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2 of the Constitution of the United States, Representative LaMonica McIver be expelled from the House of Representatives. Now, expulsion requires a 2/3 vote, something that might be tricky given the fact that Democrats never saw a criminal that they didn't love, and most Democrats are completely anti-America. So it's going to be difficult with the slim majority that the Republicans have to get enough votes. However, it might be a bit more difficult to stand by McIver when this video gets played over and over in a campaign of advertisements in swing districts during the next election if the Democrat who holds the seat votes against removing McIver, particularly if she is convicted of her crimes. And of course, based on the video, how could she not be? Once again, though, the justice system is somewhat corrupt. So, just in case you missed it, the whole thing was more or less a stunt for Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, who is currently mounting a race for the Democrat gubernatorial nomination in the Garden State, and he's not really doing a good job of securing votes. A May 11th poll found that Representative Mickey Sherrill has a slight lead over Baraka, 10 to 8% in the cattle car primary in January. However, Baraka, who is a favorite among the anti-American Marxist Democrats, didn't exactly make the headlines he wanted to make with the photo op at the facility when McIver's WWE-worthy antics were taking stage. The video is a train wreck for the Democrat Party, and Mace pointed out in a resolution that Representative George Santos got kicked out of the House, and he wasn't even convicted of a crime just because the evidence against him seemed somewhat overwhelming. I think there's serious stuff here. Hey guys, see you tomorrow. You have a choice, and you chose Freedom 1300.